Hello and welcome to UMD News. For this hour, I am Shimelis M. Gebremichael. In the headlines, Ethiopia seeks IMF loan to fend off hunger for 20 million people. Redwan Hussein says humanitarian aid will enter Tigray starting this weekend. Tigrayan families disconnected for over a year, cautiously optimistic about peace agreement. And now we'll move into the news in detail. We invite you all to stay with the program. In the meantime, please do not forget to like and share our programs and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is UMD News with me, Shimelis M, coming to you live via Horn Broadcasting Services and through other social media outlets. First up, Ethiopia seeks IMF loan to fend off hunger for 20 million people. Bloomberg recently reported that Ethiopia is seeking International Monetary Fund financing to provide food for its people after the worst drought in 4 decades and a civil war curbed from farm production. The fund said in an emailed response to queries without providing more details that Ethiopian authorities have indicated an interest in accessing the IMF's food shock window. According to the World Food Programme, more than 20 million Ethiopians, including people who fled their homes because of the war in the country's northern Tigray region, don't have enough to eat. The IMF estimates that at least 123 million people in Africa, 12% of the region's population, will be unable to meet their minimum food needs, 28 million more than just 2 years ago. The impact of severe drought across several countries has been compounded by Russia's war with Ukraine, which curbed exports of food such as wheat and inflated prices. Ethiopia last year thought a program with the IMF that will help it restructure about 30 billion of foreign debt. Redwan Hussein says humanitarian aid will enter Tigray starting this weekend. National Security Advisor to the Ethiopian Prime Minister and head of the peace deal, Redwan Hussein, said in Nairobi, Kenya, that humanitarian aid would flow unhindered to Tigray and other affected regions in northern Ethiopia. United States Bureau of African Affairs quoted Redwan as saying that vulnerable Ethiopians in Tigray, Afar and Amhara regional states need aid as soon as possible. According to this latest information, restoration of services, protection of civilians, human rights issues, and accountability will be top on the agenda moving forward. The tweet has briefly indicated that his government is waiting urgently for actions to fully respect and implement the agreement. It is to be recalled that the latest round of peace talks between Ethiopia's government and representatives of the country's Tigray region has been extended as military commanders work out details of disarmament of Tigray forces after 2 years of war. According to ABC News, an official familiar with talks confirmed the extension into Thursday, speaking on condition of anonymity because of they were unauthorized to speak publicly. The talks that began Monday in Kenya had been set to end Wednesday. The African Union-led talks follow last week's signing of permanent cessation of hostilities in the conflict or in the war that is estimated to have killed hundreds of thousands of people. The agreement calls for the disarmament of Tigray forces within weeks, but there is concern about when other combatants who aren't part of the deal will withdraw from Tigray. They include forces from Eritrea, which neighbors the region, and Ethiopia's Amhara region. Other issues discussed at this round of talks include the restoration of basic services like internet, telecommunication, and banking to the region of more than 6 million people, as well as the resumption of deliveries of humanitarian aid. The United Nations on Wednesday said they and partners were still waiting on access to the region, where even some basic medical supplies have run out. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who is from Ethiopia, told reporters he had expected aid to resume immediately after the peace deal's signing. ABC also confirmed that the lead negotiator of Ethiopia's government, Redwan Hussein, as we have earlier on reported, has said that maybe by the end of this week or the middle of the next week, humanitarian aid will be allowed to go in. United Nations-backed investigators have said Ethiopian forces resorted to the starvation of civilians as a weapon in the conflict marked by abuses on all sides. And finally, Tigrayan families disconnected for over a year, cautiously optimistic about peace agreement. Following the signing of the agreement between the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, and the federal government of Ethiopia, a lot of ideas have been entertained as it paves the way to different opportunities and challenges. One among these is the issues of basic services, including telecommunications. Addis Standard Media, in its latest piece, has presented a thorough analysis. The article starts with the information that Tigray regional state in northern Ethiopia, where war has been raging for 2 years, has been under communications blackout. This has been mainly since the Tigrayan forces took control of regional capital Mekelle in June 2021. According to this article, the communications blackout that came along with interruption of electric power supply, banking services, aerial and ground transport have left millions of families and relatives effectively disconnected with both their relatives who are in different parts of the regional state itself and remaining part of Ethiopia, and with their family members in the diaspora. Addis Standard has talked to many citizens from the region and presented their views. Here are some of the people in the region where the media has talked with. For Kiflom, name changed for security reason, 30 years old, a Tigrayan who lives in Addis Ababa, the last 2 years have been intolerable as he haven't heard from his family who are living in village near the town of Adigrat, Tigray region. He used to speak to his mother 4 times a week before the communication blackout, but now he says he don't even know her well-being. Speaking to Addis Standard, Kiflom said, I met my family in person 2 weeks before the war broke out on November 4th, 2020. He said, after the war broke out, my father was once able to speak to me from the mountains of Tigray. We didn't even talk properly due to the poor network in the area. Some families from central and other parts of Tigray who could manage to travel to Alamata, paying unacceptably expensive prices for transport and accommodation, have been able to connect with their relatives using almost non-existent cell network from bordering areas. The other only means way was by sending recorded voice messages that often take several days to reach the recipient family members after the facilitators managed to get the very limited satellite internet access that was reserved mainly to humanitarian organizations in Tigray. On the 25th of October, ICRC said it helped families in northern Ethiopia remain in touch through more than 185,000 free phone cells and text messages over the period of 9 months, starting from January 2022. The communications blackout has not only separated families, but affected the people in Tigray socially and economically. Although further details of its implementation are yet to come by, the joint statement of the two parties has indicated that the interrupted services, including communication services, are to be restored in Tigray. This has brought a new hope to all affected in the war, yet especially people are suffering in the agony and separated with their family members without notice, leaving them with no clue on their well-being or whereabouts. The analysis piece appeared on the 9th of November 2022 in the Addis Standard. Media has presented detailed information, and we'll leave the rest of the piece for you, our viewers and listeners, to read and get the gist of the matter. Well, with that, we come to the end of the news for today. This has been UMD Media News with me, Shimelis M. Gebremichael. UMD's program comes to you via Horn Broadcasting Services, HBS, and through different social media outlets like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Please do not forget to like and share our programs and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.